climber with your partner in climb. Enjoy a post-workout recovery session in the Hydro Massage and do it all again with access to any of our 2,700 convenient locations. So, you coming? Get all the perks with a PF Black Card for $1 down and $24.99 a month.
Hurry, you won't want to miss this exclusive offer. Deal ends June 13th.
See Club for details.
Hey, baseball fans, join the Blur Tailgate at Hilton Omaha this June for our 12th annual hospitality event during the College Baseball Championship Series. Book an experience for your clients or employees with an inclusive bar, buffet, TVs, music, and tailgate games. Secure your spot today and let Blur Events take care of all the work so you can enjoy the day. Plus, we're just steps away from Charles Schwab Field. Visit blurevents.com to book your group, buy tickets, or learn about sponsorships. That's blurevents.com, your college baseball and football tailgate destination.
Country music star Rodney Atkins will be performing at the Icebox on Friday, June 20th. Tickets start at $30 and doors open at 7 p.m. The capacity is only 3,000, so don't wait. Buy your tickets at LincolnStars.com today before it sells out.
This is Bill Mitchner, Executive Director of Lincoln Lighthouse. Did you know Lighthouse provides multiple programs for students such as one-on-one tutoring and mentoring, as well as pro-social skill exercises, while providing them a nourishing meal and a safe space during all months of the year, even during school breaks? Learn more or contribute to Lighthouse at lincolnlighthouse.org today.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America. This is Old School, sponsored by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman and Austin Orman. Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
There it is. That's that theme music right there. The Jay Foreman, Austin Norman, Old School, the New School Way, brought to you by the Mercado. Certified Piedmontese, special ingredients at Butcher Shop, 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, 85th and Andremat / Old Cheney, and 168th and Maple up there in the O. I want to give a shout out to the Mercado on 85th and Andremat / Old Cheney. It's actually Old Cheney. I'm going to keep throwing Andremat in there. And the Cyclery, man. Brother brought his bike in there and got it fixed. Plus, then I was able to go get me a Tomahawk. Now, if you listen to On the Block, you know my smoker is down, but my grills ain't down. So you know what time it is when I go to Mercado and get me a Tomahawk. Your brother is going to, your boy is going to grub like a super brother come Sunday.
A super brother.
Hey, you can't tell me nothing come Sunday. I know Father's Day is like a day that where like majority of the people just want to fast forward through the day. You'll realize
not us.
Listen.
We're gonna save for this.
Saturday night, 12:01 a.m. to 12:01 come Monday morning. we in celebratory mode. Just like a lot of the Huskers and teams around America are having camp season right now, which is obviously drastically different than when I was in high school and getting recruited. I don't know if I went to any team camps. Oh, actually I did. I guess this is a little funny story. So I went to the Minnesota Gophers team camp. Wanted to go. My dad was like, man, you don't need to go to camp. Now, I will tell you this. Nobody was coming to Minnesota in 1992, 93 looking for athletes. Up until eventually I left, I think the last kind of big time recruit was a guy named Rod Smith and maybe John Alton. They both went to Notre Dame. And you know what was crazy? There was a guy, I think his name was Mike McCullough. He played basketball for a little while. He never got taller, but he was he played running back, but he was actually like size of a defensive lineman, good athlete. He ended up going to, I think, Notre Dame a year or two before. But nobody was coming to Minnesota to look for athletes. So, now granted, college football is drastically different. And so my recruiting, process was not what people would assume, being Chuck Foreman's son and all this, and feel like, it's a foregone conclusion that people are just knocking down the doors at 7370 Stewart Drive to get me to go to their college. And my first offer, official letter, handwritten, was from Augustana. I was like, hell no.
South Dakota, baby.
I was like,
stand up.
It's not happening.
Minnesota at least has lakes.
Listen, I can tell you this. If I didn't go play college sports, I would have been a white-collar criminal. No lie.
If I didn't play college sports, I would have been a white-collar criminal is the line of the month, if not.
That's guaranteed. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I like herbalistics, and I would have been handling business. That's the honest to God truth. I would have went to Normandale Community College. And I would have been in the community. Big time. Now, and so it started there, and then, I played AAU basketball. I was just telling somebody today, I was number 9 coming off the bench. I have no problem saying it either. You want to know why? All 5 of the guys that started went to the NBA. The 2 guys on the bench went to college to play. Robert Mestis played at Valparaiso when he was the guy, the point guard that hit Drew for the last second shot. Akeem Carpenter went and played college football or college basketball. He rest in peace. He passed away here recently. And then there was me, and then there was my man Dave Johnson, who was one of my good friends, and he played at Wisconsin Whitewater. I was like 8th or 9th, or whatever. Depends on the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's all I did. But I knew like football was a little bit easier, and I had a good,
a little more natural.
No, I thought I was a hooper. I matter of fact, I knew I was a hooper. I knew me scoring 20-some points a game. I just swore to God there was nobody on the face of the earth that was doing it until I went to Cincinnati. Until I went to Cincinnati. And I got a bootleg. I was getting bootleg like offers. I call them bootleg offers. And here's how you get a bootleg offer. And I always say this: if you want to get a bootleg offer in football, just run a good track time and then don't run track anymore. So here's what I did. Like, I was a decent player. I mean, look, I was a good basketball player. But Sam Jacobson, they said he was a White Jordan, and Khalid Al-Amin, and John Thomas was a lottery pick, and Bebop. All those guys were really, really good players. Like, legit. Obviously, they played at the highest level. And so we played New York City, Riverside. Around this time, about June, about July, actually. It was
a couple weeks later.
And actually, in the semifinals, or in the quarterfinals, we played against my man Kenny Cheatham down in Arizona.
Yep. Okay.
And Colin and my man Adrian Patterson, who his son plays at the Gophers right now, or
That's
last year, number 25. They got in foul trouble. So I'm like, hey, man, look, I'm gonna just take a football mentality. I ain't backing down from nobody. So I'm gonna get this party started. And the thing about New York River City, or New York River, Riverside, excuse me, and then Phoenix, they would travel, they would get hype, like they would have. That's exactly what I like. Okay. I know I'm not gonna be in this game a long time, but you're gonna remember me for a long time, right? Or I'm gonna be in the game a short time, you're gonna remember me a long time. So I'm gonna bring some defensive intensity. I'm gonna hit some threes, and if I get on the break now, Austin, there is no layup. I'm trying to jam that thing. I'm trying to rock the rim, and that's exactly what I did. I think against the Phoenix, I think I hit a couple threes, a couple like turnovers, layups. It was like Vinnie Johnson, and then I had a big dunk. Well, everybody was there watching. Well, then
did they get hyped?
No, I mean the coaches were there watching. Nice. We're like, oh, who's this dude, right? Then so we played New York City, Riverside. They getting hyped. They dancing everywhere. We down by double digits, and so they just throw he essentially put the backups in. We're gonna keep calling in, and you 4 go in. Well, then we start locking up full court. Now, we didn't do this press. We just locked up man-to-man. And
94 feet.
right. And so I started getting busy then. Then next thing you know, temples. I mean, people start sending me letters that had no business sending me letters.
And that's a bootleg offer.
Right. Until I went to Cincinnati with Coach Huggins. And I saw
Huggy Bear?
And I saw what was there.
Uh-huh.
And then I saw me. And the ride home between me and Chuck Foreman was like, he said, listen, this is the funny thing about Dad, man. I got to get about it. He said, listen. He said, how many people you think are about 6'2" and average 20 points a game? Me thinking. I said, not many. He said, boy. He's like, there might not be 1,000. He's like, but they're dang near close to 1,000. And I was I'll never forget, man. This was like we were up in Chicago, and Chicago's always like tricky for us to get. I was just like, dang. Like, do I want to cry?
I can't cry.
Really ain't that good. I saw them dudes down there that are really good. They had a different and then for me, I was like, all right, there's about 8 scholarships a year in basketball. There's 25 in football. This football thing ain't so bad. And I love football.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, after nationals, I told my dad, I said, listen, I want to go to Minnesota Gophers camp. He said, man, how you going to go? You coming back on, like, you missing the first day. How you going to go? You ain't done nothing football-wise since football season because I've been playing basketball.
Right.
You know? And that was the year I stopped playing baseball because Coach Tobin wouldn't let me brother pitch. You know, I thought I was Doc Gooden, even though I was skipping it to the plate. But so I get off the plane and thinking all that matters is when we start scrimmaging. Well, then I was like, I literally got off the plane with no like track shoes. I got off the plane literally. I wish I had a picture of this. I literally had a tank top, cut off sleeves, and some hooping shorts.
Heck yeah.
And some basketball shoes.
Yeah.
So you get there, and I was more excited to get there.
We're talking like Glenn Mason camp?
What is his name, man? They say that I'm the part of the reason why he got fired. I forget his name. Kevin Sumlin was the wide receiver coach. He's the one that my dad cussed out at J.D. Hoyt's talking about with Jay walk on. And then, well, anyways, I go there and they're like, hey, we need you to run a 40. Like
Jim Wacker?
Jim Wacker. Right, because my dad was like, he's a whack job. So they like run a 40. And I was like, really? I was like, I just flew 3.5 hours.
To be here.
Yeah.
For this.
With nothing. I'm riding with one of my teammates home tomorrow. They're like, yeah, we want you to run a 40. It's like a day camp. I ain't running a good 40. And so that's when they were like, yeah, you ain't ready to go to Gophers. Well, then obviously, like back then it was like, you just got to have a good 4 games in your senior season. And then, then it was all heads to bed. Then, what I mean? So it's a lot different now. They got camp season going on. As much as 2025 is, has to be a good year for Nebraska, you almost have to do, I don't know. And I know Matt Rule was on, I think either this morning or was it this morning on early break or yesterday?
Yesterday morning.
Yesterday. Yeah. For him, I think, I can't speak for him, but I was just looking from the outside in. It's like, you got to have like 3 brains. You got to have one that's like, obviously your family and your kids. Then you got to have 2025. And then the other part of your brain has got to be every year after. And it just keeps, because next year be 2026 ever after. Because as you are building the team, you constantly got to rebuild your team. And obviously with the NCAA ruling, I think potentially could help out a team like Nebraska rebuild and reload faster and then be more in a consistent basis. But, this camp season and recruiting and the unofficial/official visits, I would have never thought of taking an official visit in June. I took mine during basketball season, my official visit to Nebraska. Now, look, we didn't have the portal. We didn't have 2 signing periods, so it's drastically different. But kids that are younger, as we saw with Trey Taylor, he's a sophomore, going to be a junior. you have to commit early now. You have to, because the great thing about like Warren Academy and 7-on-7 is that these kids are exposed to different places on a more regular basis, bigger cities, and going to these universities. And so these coaches know, like, if you want this scholarship and this potential NIL money, you better be locked in early.
But isn't volleyball a sport where you can't commit till your senior year?
I think so.
Don't quote me on that, but would it be healthy to continue the system that we have where kids can go on visits, relatively early and commit early? Or would it be better if they had to wait till their junior year to start going on visits and committing for contact with coaches even?
Yeah, maybe contact with coaches. I think the more times that these kids, especially if they're able to do it on their own dime, or if there's some assistance or whatever, can get to places, and I'm obviously biased to Nebraska, get to Nebraska, see the people, see the culture, see the whole, Lincoln and Omaha and all this other stuff, along with what they got going on over there, I think would naturally lead to more longevity in your tenure here.
Yeah.
I'd like that. But I also think that when you start to go on unofficial/official visits, or I don't think there's official visits when you're young, but when you keep going to a lot of unofficial visits at a young age, you don't even know what you're looking for.
Right.
Except
attention.
Right. Attention. And then therefore that's setting you up for failure. Or potentially setting you up for failure. So I think it's one of those things that, with this new ruling, they're going to have to, potentially adjust. I mean, obviously the transfer portal is always open, and will always continue to be open, no matter if the kids are under contract or not, collectives or not, collectives and, the university working hand in hand to sign the team and do it. I think the best thing that can happen is understanding the rules, work within the rules, and be the best at working within the rules, and be the first one, like I said, in that first leg and second leg of the 4x1 relay. Because when you do that and you're the one that sets the pace, when the pace readjusts, you reset the new pace. And so, that's probably, potentially where Nebraska's at and where they, obviously trying to go. But I mean, it's a good time, but it's a stressful time. Because more importantly, a lot of the things that you're doing right now is predicated on what you do in a couple months. And you just never know, who you're playing or what you're going against, because the transfer portal it's the ultimate smokescreen, and you just never know what clicks with the team and when they can catch genie in a bottle. And the next thing you know, you in a dogfight. And really, to be honest with you, the way that these kids are trained / overtrained in high school or middle school and high school, and then with different levels that they could transfer in. Is there a big difference in athletes? Now, when we played Northern Iowa, I think last year, you could see the depth isn't. The initial size across the line was obviously to Nebraska's benefit, but not so much. Like it was glaring, but the depth and the ability to stay in the fight. But if you catch a team on the wrong day at the wrong time, you could be in like North Dakota like 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, and see, that's where I think I have some experience with that coming from Lincoln Lutheran, right? Class C1, maybe Class C2. They've bounced back and forth. In other schools, right? In Class C1, certainly, I'm sure can attest to this as well. Really, I think that the biggest difference most often, right? I'm saying the only difference ever, but the biggest difference I think between C1 and A, some cases, is that depth issue.
Right.
The best players in C1, most of the best players in D, 8-man, 6-man, whatever, could probably play Class A football.
Right.
Problem is, there's not the same depth of the pool to choose the best of the best athletes from to put on stage for the team. Now, that's not every year. Now, that's not every team. I'm not trying to generalize and say Class C1 can play up in Class A, but kind of the same thing in Class B, right? Nick and I see this every year in baseball.
Yeah.
A lot of the best Class B teams can hang with any Class A team.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Class A has another guy or two in the bullpen, or maybe in the starting rotation, or the lineup's just one spot deeper that pushes them over the edge. But that, to me, it's the caliber of athlete. Maybe it's the accessibility to, sport-specific training. I'm not saying that's not important. But I still maintain the biggest difference between those classes is the depth of athlete. You can
Yeah.
run, 7 or 8 guys out in a starting lineup that are legit instead of, maybe having just the one stud. You have to do everything too, or, maybe 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah, and you see it every year, March Madness.
Yeah.
But
That's different because basketball, one player can dictate the outcome of the game a lot more than football and baseball.
I just think that from 10 to 15, maybe 20 years ago, the difference between in Oakland and Kentucky was so glaring. No matter what one player did, Kentucky was going to win. Now, the size difference and the way that these coaches are able to play with their roster via, obviously, Golden State Warriors, what they did, really eliminates that. Now, when you look at
football, I think the floor has been raised.
The floor has been raised. And there's more kids that are playing. There's more training and
more
all
kids
that
are playing earlier.
And there's more competitive. You see in high school, you got kids that have played and they have they have weight coaches, they got trainers. So they're really they're ready to get at the JV varsity level maybe a year or two earlier than maybe normal predictions of guys that they're the same size. And so when you look at, whether it's Nebraska in football playing different teams or anybody else, that, are training to tee it up, the best way to approach any offseason is prepare for everybody's best shot.
Yeah.
You prepare like every single player and every single team has gotten significantly better, or they're working as hard as you have. And so therefore you have to expect they won't make mistakes. You have to expect that any type of deficiencies they've had on offense is addressed in the offseason. And you have to essentially find a way to really get to a mental space where you're essentially really, really hanging your hat on, imposing your will on them. Number one. Number two, you're which is a byproduct of imposing your will, is you're going to out execute them. And then number three, which is probably the most important, which so then it jumps up to number one, I'm more invested in this game of football. I'm more invested in my Nebraska Cornhuskers than you are at blankety blank school, so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you start to establish that, right, to where it's visual, right, because visual is very, very important. And people always talk about, how did you guys intimidate everybody? Well, it's very easy. What they heard in their mind and what they saw on their computers or DVDs came to fruition right off the get-go.
You made their nightmares come true.
Right. So then all those sleepless nights, all that anxiety came punching you dead in your face every single Saturday.
From kickoff on.
That's how you create intimidation. And then sure, we talked a little junk and stuff, go like that with it. But I think all that stuff came.
Or you?
It was.
Is it a team effort?
Yeah, we
did.
We
woofed? Okay.
Not that much.
But enough?
Yeah, no.
Push the intimidation
Farley
over the
needs
edge.
to do it. It's Farley.
Shocker.
Farley and Rashawn.
Shocker.
But no,
Shocker.
But I think it's just, that's really what you're trying to do. And then when you're trying to sell a program, and yes, it's competitive money-wise, but you also want to make sure everybody checks those boxes as well.
Yeah.
Because now it's more competitive for each athlete. Now everybody thinks it's competitive for the team to go get these guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's also competitive for the team to accept these guys or want them. Because you might be appealing to nine other people, but I know what I want as the 10th. I have to be willing to walk away from what I know isn't beneficial for you and or me or us, big scheme of things, no matter what the outside pressure is. So, I think it's probably one of the things that Nebraska's, working on and they're doing a good job at. And so those are my 2 cents, and along with my man Austin. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and get some thoughts on the new NCAA, I guess, anti-bankruptcy settlement. Man, you play back in 2016, you just going to get broke. You just getting a free chizzy.
Congratulations.
The best 3-9 team in NCAA history is about to get paid. Right?
Straight up.
That's crazy. Jay Foreman, Austin Norman, Old School. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Old School with Jay Foreman and Austin Orman. Download the mobile app and listen wherever you are on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Load up on meat and more this summer at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This week's specials through June 24th are $1 off ground beef, 15% off on aprons, 15% off Cornhead beer, and buy one, get one 50% off on brats and hot dogs, limit 2. Plus, stop by for lunch on Fired Up Thursday at the Mercado East or Fired Up Friday at the Mercado North. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town. Father's Day is coming soon, and you know what that means. Backyard parties and lots of grilling. You know what's more embarrassing than an overcooked piece of meat? A dirty, disgusting, and grimy grill. Let the pros at Husker Grill Cleaning keep you ready all grilling season. They'll take your grill apart piece by piece, scrub every inch, and reassemble it so your grill can look and perform its best. Visit their website, huskergrillcleaning.com today to schedule your appointment. Husker Grill Cleaning, serving Lincoln, Omaha, Malcolm, and more.
Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs, from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197.
Hey, baseball fans, join the Blur Tailgate at Hilton Omaha this June for our 12th annual hospitality event during the College Baseball Championship Series. Book an experience for your clients or employees with an inclusive bar, buffet, TVs, music, and tailgate games. Secure your spot today and let Blur Events take care of all the work so you can enjoy the day. Plus, we're just steps away from Charles Schwab Field. Visit blurevents.com to book your group, buy tickets, or learn about sponsorships. That's blurevents.com, your college baseball and football tailgate destination.
This is Bill Mitchner, Executive Director of Lincoln Lighthouse. Did you know Lighthouse provides multiple programs for students such as one-on-one tutoring and mentoring, as well as pro-social skill exercises, while providing them a nourishing meal and a safe space during all months of the year, even during school breaks? Learn more or contribute to Lighthouse at lincolnlighthouse.org today.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Be at the 32nd Annual Testicle Festival for some fun, rain or shine. Free entry for military. It's at Round the Bend Steakhouse in Ashland, June 14th from 11 to 10. Take I-80 exit 426, roundthebendsteakhouse.com.
Your number one dad may not need another tie or coffee mug, but he always needs a little more award-winning barbecue from Hog Wild. Give Dad a meal fit for the king of your castle this Father's Day with Hog Wild's hearty, family-pleasing menu. Our meaty ribs, tender beef brisket, pulled pork, and hot links pair perfectly with our home-style sides. Order online at GoHogWild.com. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 3210 Cornhusker Highway in Lincoln.
But don't be late, we close at 8.
With the Planet Fitness Black Card, you can bring a friend anytime and so much more when you join today. You heard that right. Conquer the stair climber with your partner in climb. Enjoy a post-workout recovery session in the hydro massage and do it all again with access to any of our 2,700 convenient locations. So, you coming? Get all the perks with the PF Black Card for $1 down and $24.99 a month.
Hurry, you won't want to miss this exclusive offer. Deal ends June 13th.
See Club for details.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills Global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Well, we're back. Jay Foreman, Austin Norman, old school to new school way. Quick segment here. Well, we're talking contracts, man. Damn contracts.
They'll get you.
Well, the problem is like when you haven't had to have. Well, the contract has always been what you're going to pay me. Now it's like, I think it works out well for the schools to potentially have guys. I don't know how they're able to do it, but if you can have buyouts, transfer clauses where you can transfer, all that type of stuff where I wouldn't say.
Do you think there will be trade clauses? We can trade you to any Power 5 school
eventually. Like, I strongly believe there's going to be a trade window, like the transfer portal. You've been traded.
Woo.
We need a running back. We need a linebacker. Okay, well, who's available? Why not? But I think the clauses will be interesting in the sense of it'll make you obligated to each other. How they work through that. I think the hardest part is gonna be when you have incentives in there. I think if you have team incentives, I like it. Because here's why I like team incentives. I like it, but I don't like it because you could be playing crappy and everybody else step their game up and you benefit off of it.
Right.
But on the flip side, if you say, "Hey, Austin, I'm gonna," if your contract says, say you're a receiver, and you get an extra 100,000 if you get 1,000 yards receiving. Well, you've been the number one receiver for we played 12 games for 10 games, and all of a sudden 11 and 12, you only out there 30% of the time. So I think you got to stay away from incentives. I think it needs to be pay rate, time obligations, and if things don't go the way you want it to go, then whether it's a mutual decision, one-sided decision, player option, university option, or team option, so forth and so on.
So the interesting part about that then, Jay, is we know that for teams, they like a lot of years and a little money. Typically, players like fewer years and more money. That's the tension for contracts, and it's going to be really interesting to see how, if your system comes to fruition, how that gets borne out in college. Because teams are going to want to sign guys to 4 or 5 year deals. But I think there are going to be some smart players, the ones that hire the good agents, that say, no, we'll sign on for 2 to begin with, whether that's redshirt or playing your first 2 years, whatever it is. But we're not giving you all 4 years up front, all 5 years up front if you include a redshirt, whatever that looks like. Now, I think there'll be plenty of student athletes that say, yeah, I just got to take the money. I got to lock it in. But then what will be their legal avenue for getting out of that contract? What you're going to see is, they're going to throw a hissy fit. They're going to go James Harden. They're going to go Kevin Durant and say, I don't want to be here anymore. Trade me. And the number of guys that I think will be able to leverage that power if they get themselves into a deal that turns out they don't actually like in the end, it makes sense maybe in baseball, definitely in the NFL and in the NBA. But it doesn't work the same in college.
No.
It won't work the same in college. You do not have the same power, the same leverage. It is not going to fly.
Yeah, the funny thing is who's going to be the first guy to take a little bit longer contract, more guarantees, and the guarantees are no matter what. And then I'm getting money from a college that I left at another college.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
Did you hear my bird rights idea that Strick and I were talking about?
No.
You know what those are, right, in the NBA?
A little bit.
So if you're with a team for 3 years, like your first 3 years, you get like full bird rights or whatever. I think college needs that, and it would tamp down on the transfer portal too, where my idea is if you're with a team for 2 seasons, then in your 3rd year, you're eligible to be re-signed for an amount that would take your team over the rev share cap.
Yeah.
But you can only do it if you've been at an institution for 2 full years. Like we talked even into, like 5 semesters.
Right.
You got to be there. Because then I think it would do 2 things. Number one, it would slow down the transfer portal.
Right.
And you couldn't just hop from school to school getting the biggest bag you can in revenue sharing. Hypothetically, the only number of times you would be eligible for this supermax that we would call it 2 times. Yeah. If you redshirt, in freshman year, then you sign for the supermax as a sophomore. You transfer, you play your junior year, get hurt, but you stick around and say, yeah, I'm going to play. You must be a superstar. Your team really likes you. they give you the Supermax for your 6th year.
Yeah, and then you throw in a little grad transfer there as well. So
Correct,
they have
correct.
that in the NFL. It's like you play 3 years, and then you have a tender. Now the tender is based on
Yeah.
where you were drafted, but then also you hear a first round tender, transition tag, and all that
Tag.
other stuff. And
And the tags are based on like average value at the top, like
Right,
5
yeah,
contracts
and
at your position.
right, and you could do that with college, and I like that. It'd probably help the colleges to have a little bit. I wouldn't say a hard cap, but a little bit harder cap, and so you'll be able to forecast whatever you need to raise or be donated to your
Mhm.
university to obviously finance your football team.
Which is why there's been a lot of talk about raising the money. But to me, what's going to be more important is what are the penalties for going over?
Right.
If there are no legitimate penalties, what's going to stop teams from doing more than 20 and a half?
And how much? And are you going to put a cap on NIL too?
Right.
Because some teams could do both, and then they have a distinct advantage. Or it's like, since they have the advantage, have at it. But yeah, I like it. I think I like what you're thinking about the bird rights. I think it's been like that, and with the red shirt, or you could do it. How many years you've been out of college, and which gets a little tricky because of the JUCO thing now.
Or out of high school.
Or at high school,
Yeah,
excuse me.
yeah.
With the JUCO thing where you don't have those years counted against you. So, however they start with those contracts, and whoever jumps out there first, is going to be interesting. On the flip side, if I'm a kid I think the kids that are already under NIL contracts or with the collectives are already grandfathered in. I like that.
Yeah.
And if I was a school that knew this was coming, I would have tried to lock down a lot of my guys in before, whether I thought it was coming in March or now we're in June.
Mhm.
Here's why, because I'm just going to assume the money won't be the same. It will be less with the contracts, right? Revenue sharing, you got a cap, you got to spread the money out. It's just different. It's going to be 15% of your roster really getting paid, the other 85%, and it's kind of, be stair-stepped on who's getting paid, not at that rate of the top 15.
Mhm.
But if I had so that's fine. But if you already had this money set aside for your collective for however many years, you're good. Now, anything new, I actually can play a little bit of Moneyball idea with like the Oakland A's, because if I have the core of my roster on the NIL deals for, let's say, the next 3 years,
Mhm.
it's not unless these players really, really progress and become like All-American or something, it's not an advantage to them to jump in the portal.
Right.
Now, if they do become All-Americans, I'm renegotiating with you anyways.
Right.
So, but just on the sense of like just jumping around just because, you can go, I call them stay fees. If I stay on your roster, I get money. If I stay on somebody else's roster, I get money. To eliminate all that, you have them. And so now you can start to build something along with the guys with the revenue sharing that you can have them double dip. You can get paid from previous contract. You can get paid from the revenue sharing as far as like the 20.5 million. And then you can still get paid from collective.
Do you think there needs to be an NIL cap?
From the collective?
Yes. Outside
How
of
do
revenue
you-
sharing.
how do
Do
you
you
even-
think there needs to be a cap?
It's hard.
Because to me,
I would say it's hard to say yes or no, because what if you have a really good collective, but you in a crappy TV deal in conference?
I don't want to put a cap on it, because to me, that's essentially, just because there's the most free agency money in New York and LA doesn't mean everyone wants to go to the Knicks or the Nets or the
I don't think a
Clippers,
cap would be good. I don't think it'd be cap. Listen, if Nebraska farmers and everybody else and these big money people in Nebraska want to not only put their butts in the stands and buy jerseys or whatever, however the 20.5 million with the TV contracts come to fruition,
Mhm.
and then they want to continue to give to our collective, and then Iowa's doesn't, well, that's your fault.
Right.
That's not a me
me problem.
That's a you problem.
Yeah.
So I like no cap. Let's get after it. Let's actually get creative. Let's see how we can maximize all three pillars that we have. The previous grandfather contracts with our core players, our new ones that we coming up, that we're gonna still have some of the we could put you in this pot too.
Mhm.
But then also we can add the collective.
Mhm.
So then now when we really, then as we present it to whatever players are coming in for unofficial/official visits or camps or whatever it may be, we're putting you up there and said, this is exactly now you can't be grandfathered in, but this is how we can take care of you on the front end in the long term. And that's how you start to build a program to where you're, I mean, look, we wouldn't be the only one doing it, but we want to be the main people doing it in our like little fighting area, which is a 500 to 600 mile radius.
I don't think there will ever be a cap, and I just think there should be a cap on the amount of NIL money that a team can spend, because I think that's just like you said, it's a you problem if you can't get there. Sorry, we're using our advantages. You probably have one too. Just figure out what it is and exploit it. But it's going to be really interesting to watch if this new NIL Go portal through Deloitte actually works, and they're the ones setting what they believe is market rate, to see how quickly or slowly the average value of a deal increases. Because anything over 600 has got to go through this portal. $599 and below, you're safe. But anything 600 and up, you got to push it through. It'll be really interesting to see how Deloitte judges some of these early deals, what their basis for their rationale is. Because I could see, Ohio State, for example, not wanting to do a bunch of really small deals. I could see them wanting to go all in, say, no, we just want to give this guy money, which is pay to play, which is what this is supposed to get rid of. But if Deloitte, let's not forget this, the guy who's in charge of this College Sports Commission, Jay, he has 5 bosses.
Yeah.
Power 5 conference commissioners. Mid-majors are not involved in this at all.
Right.
How are they really going to set the system up to work? Is there going to be a hard cap? Is there going to be a soft cap? Is there going to be something agreed upon? Will it be a quote-unquote de facto cap? Or will it be spend your money as long as, Deloitte says it's good, you're fine? It'll be really interesting to see how that develops.
I think it's going to be spend your money as long as the Deloitte says it's good. But like you said, I'd like to think they have some sort of evaluation process of what is actually your evaluation NIL-wise. And the extreme case is if you got the third or fourth team quarterback getting $4 million or whatever from a local dealership, that's going to send red flags. But also when you talked about the $599 and up or $600,000 and up, all right, well, let me get two NIL deals for $500,000 cash.
Yeah,
that's the equivalent once it's cash 2 times because you're not paying taxes on it. I don't think they're ever going to be able to regulate it. I think if you have some parameters and then really, what they're going to have to do is come down hard on whoever the dummy is. First of all, it's going to be a soft cap, or ideally a soft cap. But then more importantly, have the rules in place that are clear. But the people that decide to break the really, I call it the yellow light, the long yellow light.
Yeah.
And then you decide to wait till it's red and then hit the gas. Well, then now you got to go to jail.
You knew the rule.
You knew the rules.
You knew it was coming.
Right. It's like when you go to the combine. You know that you're tested for weed, and you fail. So then, therefore, I got to deal with you. So unless you're Nick Saban in Alabama, I think one thing I wanted to ask you, Austin, or get your opinion on before we go to break. I know. Look, we've had a plethora of college coaches go to the booth, which is very comfortable. And it was now Nick Saban wasn't. It wasn't because of NIL. It was part of it. It wasn't the big factor, but it was part of it. It was more the coaches, assistant coaches, and having to work so much harder to achieve the success because all his other coaches are everywhere else. That's fine. Could you see now? I think Nick Saban wouldn't. He's a little bit older, and once you're out of the game at his age, it's hard for you to jump back in. And once you're at Alabama, I don't know where else you would go. But could you see some of these coaches that retired abruptly or have been thinking about it either come back or get re-energized with the thought of this cap contracts allows me to kind of old school coach again?
Jay Wright, no. Chris Peterson, maybe. Those are the 2 that really come to mind for me.
Jay Wright, man.
He's chilling like a villain right now.
Listen.
Chilling.
Jay Wright is the smoothest dude out there. But he is just steadfast when he was done. He's like, I'm out.
I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. I wonder what it looks like for a guy like Rick Pitino. Does this help him or does it hurt him?
Well, I think
Rick likes to wheel and deal.
He likes to wheel and deal, but I don't know if he likes to have kids around that long. Like was it Silva that was there this year? Or what's
RJ Luis?
RJ Luis. You Big East player of the year. You gone that quick? I think he likes the. I think he really does well into all right, man. Here's the basketball. You score 20, good for you. You score 2, good for you. So I think it's just depending on the coach. But I think you could see some coaches come back. Maybe not at full-time head coaches, but I think maybe like consultants and really be head coaches, like kind of, mentor head coaches.
I think it's a little difficult too, because a lot of the guys that I think would come to mind are pretty high profile. Yeah. I think Boeheim's done. Yeah. I don't think this helps Jim Boeheim. I think he's going to stay done. I don't think Roy Williams is coming back. I don't think Coach K is coming back.
Too long in the tooth, too.
I would think so, too. I just think Jay Wright, from all reports, is just so comfortable. I think this would be a much better system for him. Tony Bennett. That's another one to keep an eye on. Will Tony Bennett maybe make his way back to college basketball? I hate watching his teams play, hate the style of play, but it would probably be good for college basketball if that repute came back.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you get some younger guys that, like a Tony Bennett, and those type of guys might come back and actually still be handsomely paid, but they'll be a little bit more like lower pressure universities and really build a program, and then be like, all right, I'm done. Because I hated that a guy like Tony Bennett, retires abruptly. Now, granted, part of it was to dictate who was going to be the next coach, but you think about the amount of coaches that continue to, like, you got to think of Larry Naga, right, or in Miami, where he built that program, and then have the money. You got to think about Hamilton. Now he's older.
Larry Naga is too.
But Hamilton, I didn't realize, like when I forget how Leonard Hamilton, how old he is. When they said it, I was like,
he does not look that old.
Yeah, I thought you were 20 years younger.
Yeah.
Now, those guys probably not, but you think of the coaches that either got out of the business or who are the first assistant coaches now would be more apt to leave a Duke or a North Carolina to go get these jobs, because they was like, you know what? I'd rather go to Akron and build a program knowing I can lock some of these kids in, these mid-major kids that won't just leave. Right, I can lock you into a pretty good NIL deal. So how much do you really want Austin Norman leaving Akron or whatever mid-major to go to NC State? Because now that you leave, I get a little bit of money.
Here's the other side of this coin. How many careers does this extend?
Yeah.
Like a Lance Leipold at Kansas.
Yeah.
He's 60.
Yeah.
You don't think about Lance Leipold being 60, but if he had to deal with NIL, all that crap.
Yeah.
How long would he stick around? Would he be around until 63, 64, 65?
He probably was thinking AARP, 63 and a half.
Right.
Now you could see him to
you can extend that career.
70. Right. So, I mean.
Kyle Whittingham.
Right.
Siggs.
Now, on the flip side, before we go to break, I know we're up against it, right? Well, how does this affect a guy like Dion that love to kind of really high school kids, transfer portal kids, 6 to 9 months, you're gone.
Yeah.
Now you actually got to commit and build some kids up. Does that might have a positive effect? I think it would have here at Nebraska, right? It might have a negative effect that, like you said, Rick Pitino and Dion, where all they known is churn the guys in. Every year, somebody wearing 44 is a different dude, right?
Right.
It's just rinse and repeat. So, anyways, we're going to take a quick break, come back. Jay Foreman, Austin Norman, Old School. We'll be right back.
Watch Old School live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Old School with Foreman and Norman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Noticing more dust at home? It may be time for duct cleaning from Bryant. Breathe easy and healthy. Call 467-1111. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Country music star Rodney Atkins will be performing at the Icebox on Friday, June 20th. Tickets start at $30 and doors open at 7 p.m. The capacity is only 3,000, so don't wait. Buy your tickets at LincolnStars.com today before it sells out.
Hey, baseball fans, join the Blur Tailgate at Hilton Omaha this June for our 12th annual hospitality event during the College Baseball Championship Series. Book an experience for your clients or employees with an inclusive bar, buffet, TVs, music, and tailgate games. Secure your spot today and let Blur Events take care of all the work so you can enjoy the day. Plus, we're just steps away from Charles Schwab Field. Visit blurevents.com to book your group, buy tickets, or learn about sponsorships. That's blurevents.com, your college baseball and football tailgate destination.
Be at the 32nd Annual Testicle Festival for some fun, rain or shine. Free entry for military. It's at Round the Bend Steakhouse in Ashland, June 14th from 11 to 10. Take I-80 exit 426. RoundTheBendSteakhouse.com.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills Global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Cobble Chevrolet GMC, and the hail sale has been a huge success, but is winding down. We still though have several units with huge discounts. Plus, we have brand new Sierras, $14,000 off list, or starting at $37,105, or 0.9% APR on select new models. Yes, you heard right. $14,000 off or 0.9% APR on new Sierras starting at $37,105. So please check us out at cobblecars.com. All deals with roof credit, stock number G289358.
Empire Netting and Fence delivers top quality netting and fence solutions. From major sports venues to backyard installs and everything in between, coast to coast. We take on tough jobs with grit, integrity, and a strong commitment to safety. Empire is growing, and we're hiring motivated people ready to grow with us. We build each other up, and we're building something big. Think you've got what it takes? Apply now at empire-fence.com. That's empire-fence.com.
Back to Old School with Foreman and Orman on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
One quick segment left here for Old School, brought to you by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. Jay Foreman on the road, Austin Norman with you right here. Let's go to our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line. Westy on our text line. Is there ever going to be a time in the future where they take NIL away? I would not hold my breath. I would say NIL is here to stay. I think what the new system is set up for is an attempt at making NIL the system I think we all thought it would be. Maybe some people had the foresight to predict and anticipate that we would see 5, 6, 7-figure deals for players at universities. And if you did, credit to you. I think most people, would have said, yeah, it's probably possible down the road, maybe not right away. I don't think anyone fully foresaw the system that college sports had in place happening the way it did. I absolutely maintain that I don't think that was the case. But I also think that with the rulings that we've had from Judge Wilkin and probably other court cases in the recent past and maybe even ones to come, I don't think it's going to fly to say that the NCAA can limit student athletes' earning potential, which is what they're doing by not allowing them to profit off their name, image, and likeness. And some of that, is alleviated in the revenue sharing, right, directly from the universities. But to tell, college kids essentially, they can't get a job on the side, they can't promote themselves, can't market themselves for monetary gain, I don't think that's going to fly. So I truly hope that NIL looks different, and I hope it serves the purpose that we all thought it would. Be invested in your local community. Maybe you're a superstar nationally and you're able to swing a big deal that maybe other people in your position weren't able to do. What I'm worried about is that it's going to be the same system, just reskin. And so that's really the question that we have to wait and see here. But long answer short, no, I don't believe NIL is going anywhere. Hopefully it looks different, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that, at least at first. Like I said to Jay, like I said to Strick, and it's worth repeating here, the way to make sure that it does look different, it's not just the same system with a new name or reskinned,
is to figure out the enforcement for what happens when someone goes overboard, goes outside the scope of the rules the way they're written. If there is no discernible, enforceable punishment, then it's going to be the same system we've had. But if someone, hunkers down and says, nope, this isn't happening, here's why and here's how, that could be a good deterrent. We'll have to see. Ticket weeknights coming up next here on the stream. We got Kansas City Royals, game 3 of their series against the Yankees coming up next. Come on, boys. Avoid the sweep. Load up on meat and more this summer at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese.